Earth had entered its third era of harmony. After centuries of war, the climate and resources had finally been balanced. Thanks to a global environmental modulation network, governed by a hyper-intelligent AI, humanity no longer fought for energy or land, they now competed for knowledge and honor. But this brilliance did not go unnoticed. Far away, from the Aeloria Nebula near the edge of the Milky Way, a hidden biological signal was decoded by Aeloria, a civilization that had evolved beyond technology into consciousness and multidimensional awareness. To them, life was not just cells. It was harmony, rhythm, a pulse that echoed through the fabric of the cosmos. Lira, a high commander of the Aelorian expedition. She was not just a soldier, not just a scientist. She was born from the dream state of the primordial council, chosen not for her strength, but for something deeper. A rare resonance with Earth, something never recorded before. Her companions carried burdens of their own. Vrixar, a quantum biologist who lost everything, haunted by the dangers of emotion. Tia, a silent warrior who once annihilated a species, only to be broken by the innocent cry of a child. Their ship landed at Stillwave Sea, a silent zone on Earth where quantum energy rippled in secrecy. There, Lira felt it. A biological echo. Something reaching for her, calling her name, without words. Then she saw him. Gavin, a young scientist, not bound by Earth's pride or fear. He believed in connection, not conquest. In that moment, as their eyes met, the world shifted. Tiny lights rose between them, crystalline points of resonance, a phenomenon only known to the Aeolians. When two souls had once touched, in another lifetime, Gavin was stunned. Rational, brilliant, yet silenced by her presence. And Lira, she remembered a dream long ago. A boy, bathed in light, speaking her name in the ancient tongue of her people. They didn't know it yet, but this was no accident, no random crossing of paths. This was the beginning of a love that would defy stars and awaken secrets long buried between two worlds. The night breeze drifted gently across the dome of the Polaris Star Observatory, where Lira and Gavin often met to exchange data. But tonight, numbers and charts were no longer the focus. They stood side by side, silent, gazing into the sky, where the stars seemed to be listening to something beyond what both Earth and Aeloria could comprehend. "I used to think your species was fragile," Lira whispered, her voice like a subtle current humming through the air. "But perhaps, what you have, and we lost, is the courage to feel." Gavin looked at her, his smile tinged with melancholy. "And I thought you were pure logic, a machine in the shape of a woman. But every time you silently look at me, I see something in your eyes, trying to break through the border between our worlds." But not everyone welcomed that bond. In a classified briefing beneath the Andes Mountains, Vrixar stood tall, his tone severe. "The connection between Commander Lira and researcher Gavin violates Interspecies Protocol 14.7. Personal emotional attachment introduces bias and threatens the integrity of our mission." Zia, ever skeptical of humans, added coldly. I do not trust their kind. They destroyed their own world. We cannot let a fleeting sentiment undo everything we've fought to protect. But then, everything changed. A critical Earth satellite was hacked, emitting navigational pulses aimed directly at Aeloria's hidden mothership near lunar orbit. The signal was seen as a threat. Zia, interpreting it as provocation, ordered a planetary defense alert. Only Gavin uncovered the truth. The signal didn't originate from any Earth government, but from a rogue extremist group known as Gaia Reborn, opposed to all contact with alien life. Standing on the brink of interstellar war, Lira and Gavin faced a choice: to abandon each other, or stand united against both sides, against fear, politics, and centuries of mistrust. In a moment of defiance, Lira stepped forward before Aeloria's High Council, violating one of her culture's strictest diplomatic codes. There is no date set that defines what I feel, she declared. Her eyes turned to Gavin, who stood silent in the distance. I am no longer just an observer. I am part of this world now. And if that's a crime, I accept the consequences. Gavin, breaking his own security oath, presented encrypted neurodata, proof that Aelorians could experience a form of bioelectrical resonance, akin to what humans call love. A scientific and emotional breakthrough. The first bridge in interspecies empathy. In the aftermath, they were not punished, but chosen as the first official ambassadors of the Unity Protocol, a joint initiative between Earth and Aeloria. But the real victory wasn't in the signed accords. It was in the quiet look they gave one another, while hundreds watched. Something untranslatable. Something that no algorithm could compute. A true resonance between two souls from distant stars. We're not just studying the universe, Gavin. We're teaching it what love truly means. Lira's personal journal, end of chapter. The night sky was no longer calm. Not like the countless evenings Gavin and Lira had once shared under the stars, whispering stories of galaxies and life across dimensions. Now, each star trembled, as if sensing the storm brewing across the cosmos. Electromagnetic signals flickered into chaos. Artificial satellites lost connection, and the interdimensional gate Aeloria had opened to communicate with Earth was under attack. The chain of events began with a Cold War declaration from the Tertiary Coalition, an alliance of 3 advanced alien species who believed that humanity's entrance into the galactic circle would destabilize the balance of the universe. To them, humans were dangerously emotional, unpredictable, and unworthy of joining the Interstellar Alliance. The Aelorian delegation fractured. Zia called for immediate withdrawal, blaming the bond between Lira and Gavin as the seed of all the growing unrest. Vrixar, however, remained silent, his eyes clouded with something deeper than doubt. It was as if his scientific certainty had been shattered by Gavin, the human who had somehow altered Lira in ways no theory in bio-quantum evolution could explain. Lira stood at the heart of the storm. If our love is the spark that started this war, she said to Gavin, her voice trembling but resolute, then let it also be the light that ends it. Gavin didn't answer with words. He simply reached for her hand. No longer as a scientist, but as a man willing to trade his life for a fragile, burning truth that their love was real. As the days passed, and tertiary warships approached Earth's orbit, Lira and Gavin refused to hide. They became bait. But not in a military sense. They became a living broadcast. A living declaration that even between two alien hearts, courage, trust, and sacrifice could be born. From a half-ruined orbital station, they repaired damaged systems and transmitted every moment to the stars. No speeches of hate, just stories. Simple, human, and unbearably honest. How they once shared breath in silence. How Gavin saw Aeloria's light in Lira's eyes. And how Lira found an inexplicable calm whenever he touched her hand. Their words echoed not just through radio waves, but into the minds of millions on Earth and across galaxies where silent watchers paused to feel. It wasn't battle that ended the war. It was emotion. Raw, painful, and profoundly alive. But the end didn't come without loss. In one final assault, Lira nearly died shielding Gavin from a direct energy blast. He cradled her, half light, half blood, and swore, "If you live, I will never leave you, even if the world turns away." And she lived. When Lira opened her eyes, for the first time, she cried. Those starlit eyes now shimmered with tears. Because in that moment, she knew. She was no longer just an Aelorian commander. She was part of humanity. Part of Gavin. The first dawn after the Great War brought no gunfire. No soot-filled skies. Only silence. A silence so heavy it felt as though the universe itself was holding its breath, watching the rebirth of two worlds. At the threshold between Earth's atmosphere and the orbiting Aelorian satellite network, a new space station laid its foundation. It was called the First Accord. But it wasn't just a structure. It was a symbol. A monument to the fragile dream that two species, one emotional and resilient, the other ancient and hyperlogical, could find a shared heartbeat. Gavin and Lira became the first to inhabit it, working day and night alongside engineers, scholars, and even former soldiers from both sides of the conflict. Together, they didn't just build modules and hallways. They rebuilt trust, thread by fragile thread. The Accord Station became a home, not of steel or alloys, but of conviction. Yet beneath this peaceful surface, new concerns began to simmer in the councils of both worlds. It wasn't war they feared now, but fusion. It was Vrixar, the brilliant biologist who had seen firsthand how unpredictable humanity could be, who raised the first, unspoken question. What happens if they have a child? Zia. Once Lira's silent shadow, once her blade and her guardian, had become the doubter. To her, such a child would be more than hybrid. It would be unknown. And in war, she had learned, the unknown is always what kills you first. Rumors spread like a virus. On Aeloria, a radical faction known as the Traditional Circle, declared that allowing a mixed blood being to exist was an insult to their sacred lineage. On Earth, a quieter but more pragmatic group of researchers feared that Aelorian traits telepathic sensitivity, neural conductivity, if passed on, could be weaponized. Gavin and Lira could no longer ignore the question. One night, in the dim hum of the oxygen regeneration systems, surrounded by mist drifting beyond glass domes, Gavin gently placed his hand on Lira's belly, where a heartbeat had not yet formed, but already pulsed in possibility. "Aren't you afraid?" Lira whispered, her voice no longer that of a commander, but of a woman caught between love and consequence. Gavin smiled, a smile full of ache. "Of course I'm afraid," he said. "But I'd be more afraid if we let the world decide what love is allowed to become." She wept, for the second time in her life, tears drifting in zero gravity, merging mid-air, pain and hope dissolving into each other. The next day, they stood before the Interstellar Council. No lies, no pleas, only truth. They didn't ask for permission. They confessed that in the ruins of fear, they had chosen each other. And they believed, if a child is born of sacrifice and trust, then it cannot be a threat. It must be a promise. The council gave no verdict. Instead, they announced a supervision period. Lira's health would be monitored, her bias signatures documented. It was not rejection, but it wasn't acceptance either. The world held its breath again. And in that hush, Gavin and Lira lived on. They built, they hoped, they loved. Not in dreams, but in daylight. The 8th month of pregnancy. Inside the bioadaptive chamber at the Accord station, where gravity, light, and magnetic fields had been delicately tuned to accommodate both Aelorian and human physiology, Lira lay in quiet stillness on a bed of soft, sterile white. Gavin was always there beside her, eyes locked on the ever-shifting cascade of biological data: fetal heartbeat, a developing DNA structure unlike any previously recorded, and neurological patterns that dance beyond the known limits of either species. This child was not just theirs. It was a question, a trial, a hope, and the reason both worlds dared to keep believing. A child of dual essence. Two worlds, one future. When baby Kael was born, a soft wave of radiant blue energy surged from his body, gentle enough to cause no harm, yet strong enough to flicker every light and screen in a station. Zia and Vrixar stood in the observation room, speechless as the biometric graphs spiked to unprecedented levels. "This is a form of resonance we've never catalogued," Vrixar whispered, fingers trembling on the control panel. "It's not dangerous, but it's different." Zia's hand gripped the hilt of her weapon, not with suspicion, but with fear. Not of war, but of the unknown. Then she looked through the glass, and saw Lira cradling the child, Gavin whispering something into the quiet, and she saw a smile, a simple, unguarded smile, the kind that hadn't been seen since before the war. a moment of real peace. When fear confronts hope, the choice becomes destiny. Months passed. Kael began showing signs of unusual cognition. Though unable to speak clearly, he responded seamlessly to both Earth languages and Aelorian harmonics. But what stunned observers most was this. Whenever Kael was in a room, tensions dropped, as if his presence alone brought the brainwaves of others into a calmer rhythm, as if his essence vibrated on a frequency of peace. A historic summit was called the Interstellar Assembly, with representatives from over 20 species. Topic: should interspecies reproduction and union be permitted? On the surface, a scientific question. In truth, a storm of politics, fear, and faith. Gavin stepped onto the dais. Lira by his side, Kael in her arms. Behind them shimmered a holographic field. Kael's resonance map, glowing with blended energy signatures from two once separated realms of biology. This child is not a mistake, Gavin began, his voice steady before hundreds of watching eyes. He is not a threat. He is proof that coexistence is not only possible, it is natural. He learns from both sides. He adapts. He connects. Lira stepped forward, eyes fierce with love and truth. We never asked for permission to fall in love. But today, we ask you. Do not let that love be feared. Let it mean something. Silence fell across the vast chamber. Then, a figure stood. The Netherian ambassador. A known traditionalist. Cold and unmoving. I do not believe in interbreeding, he said, voice low. But I believe in change. And the eyes of that child, they make it hard to look away. The first applause came. Then a second. Then a third. And then, the entire hall stood. That day, Kael was officially declared the first peace ambassador between Earth and Aeloria. A child not only born of love, but of the courage to defy fear. A living testament that what begins in difference can end in unity. Kael grew up between two worlds. From a young age, he displayed abilities that defied classification. The precision and data intuition of an Aelorian, but also the empathy, instinct, and yearning for freedom that belong solely to the human heart. His eyes shimmered with the cosmic blue glow of his mother's galaxy. Yet deep within them burned the quiet determination of his father. A scientist who once defied his own species to love someone not of his world. As Kael came of age, he was entrusted with a role never before given to any being. The first interstellar peace envoy. A living bridge between species. A bearer of hope. And a lightning rod for fear. Though he was raised in the nurturing environment of the Interstellar Exchange Center, a sanctuary founded by Gavin and Lira, Kael often felt like an anomaly in the world he was meant to unite. Aelorian children watched him with quiet wariness. Humans viewed him with the unease one might reserve for something unnatural. He smiled in public, but inside, he wrestled between becoming a symbol, or simply being himself. One night, while meditating beneath the star terrace of Aeloria, a voice echoed deep within his mind. You are the bearer of transmutation. But peace has never arrived without sacrifice. It was a warning from the celestial wardens, ancient entities tasked with guarding the balance of the cosmos. They viewed Kael's existence not with admiration, but suspicion, a fracture in the grand design. Meanwhile, unrest brewed beneath the surface of both worlds. On Earth, a covert faction called the Purity Accord deemed Kael an abomination, proved that cross-species union was an affront to nature. Across the stars, a radical sect of aliens whispered the same fear, that Kael's very being threatened the purity of their mental evolution. Two conspiracies, two ideologies, and Kael trapped between them. During a diplomatic ceremony on the planet Cantharus, where Kael was to finalize a scientific and trade treaty between Earth and Aeloria, a sudden attack erupted. Kael was injured. His hybrid blood ignited upon contact with the ceremonial platform, triggering a surge of forgotten energy. Without warning, a buried artifact beneath the planet's crust awoke. The Tower of Truth, sealed away for millennia. The tower's ancient code revealed a startling truth. Kael was not an accident. He was the final node in a prophecy older than recorded time. The chosen one to awaken the sixth consciousness, a higher order life form capable of unifying all sentient species through pure emotional resonance. Kael was presented with a choice: live immortal life, safe, hidden, and unfinished, or embrace the awakening, transform into something beyond human or Aelorian, and accept that he would no longer belong to either race. In the silence between stars, Kael reached out to his parents. Lira gripped his hand, her expression free of fear. Gavin whispered, "You weren't born for an easy life, Kael. You were born to change what has never been changed." Kael closed his eyes. The sixth consciousness stirred. A light burst from Kael's chest, rippling through the void, reaching planets far and near. A wave of empathy and insight. In that moment, a new era began. An era of connection, of shared understanding, of transcendent harmony. But it was only the beginning. For in the silent corners of the galaxy, not everyone was ready to accept a new order.